everyone. Welcome to our session on defining opportunities for 2021. My name is Megan Conaham, an EVP at Direct Agents, and I'm joined by Courtney Carr at Facebook. Courtney, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you be able to give a quick intro on who you are and a little bit on your background?
Yes, of course. And first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here. A quick high-level overview. I spent my first handful of years in the agency world, and then I transitioned to the client side where I was in a little bit of a startup environment for direct response e-commerce company, and then came here to Facebook and have been here for about a year and a half, and really love being able to kind of mesh both worlds of agency and client experience together.
Cool. I'm really excited to talk to you about this today because 2020 has been just a super intense, insane, and very interesting year, I think, overall. And finally, I feel like now brands are at this place where they're not getting blindsided, every single week, and they're on somewhat solid ground. But I do think one of the mistakes that we could make as marketers is just assuming that this 2020 behavior is now static and nothing's going to change. But the reality is that next year, your marketing plans are going to keep pivoting, your demand is going to keep changing, and it's not just a continuation of this year. So we're going to be talking a lot about how 2021 is going to obviously continue to change and how we can just change and adapt with it. So Courtney, you guys have obviously been super great at analyzing consumer behavior. So I'm really just curious to hear from you guys. What are those trends that are going to keep pivoting, and how are they going to change going from this year into next? So much is uncertain, so much is unknown, but what are some of the kind of predictions you guys are making?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. This year has been so unusual, and we've had so many unexpected changes and shifts that we've had to make. And I think that's where these really big trends kind of aspire from. Most of us have been quarantining for about 6 months now. And so these trends that we're seeing, they're now full-blown habits and they're not going anywhere. And I think one of the trends, even as clients, is that we need to remain agile. We need to remain flexible and kind of build that into our culture and our processes now so that we can continue to adapt. I'll say these trends don't also just span one demographic or one age. They run the gamut. Some of these trends are trends that have been on the rise, such as the rise in e-commerce, the rise in video calling and messaging, the rise in consumption of video content. Those have been drastically accelerated and will continue to do so as we go into 2021. We've also seen a trend in human behavior of really looking inward and being more mindful. So consumers are taking more responsibility for our communities. They're also taking more responsibilities for the companies around them. They're being more mindful with their time and also their shopping patterns. They're expecting more from the brands that they buy from, and this is only going to continue. It's not just in the communications that they put out there, but also the actions that they put out there. The trends that we're seeing now are going to continue to grow. They're not going anywhere at all.
Yeah, that's super interesting, especially to your point about the agility. I think all of us could use maybe less agility in our lives, but you're completely right. We're going to have to keep just like our finger on the pulse of things and be ready to shift kind of at any moment. You also bring up some good points about, what consumers are really caring about. And obviously we saw the shifts that brands made in 2020, right? Like we saw the comfy clothes and the home workouts and everyone's fully remote, but you bring up some kind of like larger shifts in human behavior. So how do you recommend that brands can kind of capitalize on some of those things? What are the things that they could do to really kind of lean into some of these shifts?
Yeah, so I would say to my team, we need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's just the state of where we're in. And so that really is kind of adapting that internally. I think it's really important to be realistic about where your customers are and meeting them where they are, right? So how do you stay close but also giving them space? How do you connect in this new world? How do you come off authentic too? This lockdown has really created this sense of dual identity. Many people have deepened the relationship and appreciation with the communities and businesses and people around them. And so they're really investing local. For example, on Facebook from February to May of this year, clicks on searches for local businesses increased by 23%. And also local groups on Facebook grew their membership by 3 times as many. But also in this time, we've also realized more than ever that we're in a borderless nature. It's kind of re-alivened this idea that we're global citizens and we're all in this together. So, for example, since January, over $100 million has been raised for COVID relief funds globally on Facebook and Instagram. People are really wanting to contribute to the community. So local businesses have this opportunities to really get creative and to try new channels like groups and messaging, and also new ways of selling like direct on Instagram or food delivery or gift cards, things like that. While also global brands want to show how they're helping support these local communities. They also are going to want to adapt this hyper-local approach to communication where they can really tailor it to the communities based on where they are in reemerging from this pandemic.
It's really interesting. So, one thing I also wanted your take on is that, brand value, the brand values that we've been seeing emerge. And I think that localization, I think, is one route that I think a lot of brands are going. But I'm really curious to hear from you, obviously with everything going on that was on top of the pandemic, all of the issues that are going on, the social issues, brands have started taking stances. So do you think that, next year it's going to be just as important for brands to take that stance? Or do you think that we'll just see more brands kind of leaning into that more kind of local feel, that they're part of your neighborhood, they're here for you type of thing? Like, where do you think we're going to end up?
I think it's a little bit of both. And I'll say in terms of brand value and kind of what you're standing for, the important thing to note that it's not in just your communication, it's your action. And consumers and customers are really looking for that action part. They're going to hold you to what you say. Price and convenience have always long mattered to shoppers, right? That's always been important. But now people want to know more than ever that the brands that they are shopping from are supporting and doing good for the community. They are giving back. And they're also promoting safety. They want to see the action and hear about exactly how brands are keeping their customers and their employees safe. So whereas in surveys that we've done, 79% of people say price is a top consideration, 71% of people are now saying safety is. You can't put a price on this. And even in a survey that Kantar did, 50% of people said that they would be willing to pay more for products that assure the quality and the safety of the product. 2 out of 3 people surveyed globally by Global Web Index said that the way a business responds to this COVID crisis will seriously impact their future spending with that company. And so now more than ever, it's essential to give customers options to show them that you are not only saying you're delivering a safer experience, but that you're actually providing that. Streamlining your mobile shopping experience. Meet people where they are, right? That is where everyone is on mobile. Consider contactless delivery. Consider curbside pickup. Create ways that you can not only just say that you're being safe, but communicate and actually show that you are. Reassure customers that you are building this safer shopping experience through your actions and your words. And that also is not just going to be until this pandemic blows over. That is going to be long term. Really, really kind of walking the talk is really going to be expected going forward.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I agree. I think a lot of brands kind of took a stance in 2020, and I don't know if they realize the work that is going to go into this moving forward, because it is not just a 2020 or whenever there's an incident. We're becoming just so reliant on our brands to take that stance and to say what they feel and be authentic about it and do it in kind of their everyday lives. And I'm kind of reminded of the Patagonia tag that I'm sure everybody saw, and I don't think I can say it on the webinar, but just really living kind of those brand values and communicating that and saying, this is what we believe in. So I think it's been a very interesting shift for a lot of brands. I guess a follow-up question from that, do you feel that, on the flip side, I also hear brands saying, I kind of want to stay out of it. Do you think that there's a place for brands that do kind of want to stay out of that social conversation, or you really do think that everybody is going to have to take some version of a stance?
I'll say that the most important thing is to do what is authentic with your company and your brand and to really stay true to that. Consumers are really smart and they're going to read right through that. But that being said, consumers are looking for brands to take a stance. And especially with Gen Z, which is on the rise, they're not going anywhere. They really are wanting to connect the brands. They want the brands that they shop from to really be aligned to their values. And that is just going to continue. And this trend is really starting to infiltrate the generations above. And everybody is really expecting that that they're going to shop with brands and retailers that are aligned and that have stated what their opinions are and that have made their stance very clear and known. And so I think that, that's only going to continue, and that is going to be a very big trend. And so, it's not necessarily maybe going to be the final decision, but it is going to play a very big role in how people decide where to shop from.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point with Gen Z. They might not be, if you're thinking about the brands who are listening to this, they might not be the ones that are spending the most with you right now, but like, give it a minute, if you're not there and they don't think you're authentic and you don't have the values that they value, that is going to be a major hurdle when they are there spending, shopping, etc. So I like that point.
Yeah, and I'll also say that I think the way that brands respond now, it's not just for the immediate. The way that they're responding and the stance that they're taking is going to have lasting impacts well beyond this pandemic. And it's what the actions that are taken right now during this heightened time, it's really going to be a lasting impact and really influence long-term decision making.
Oh, definitely. The other thing I want to get your take on, and I don't think anybody knows for sure, what's going to happen, but is how brands are going to be able to build relationships with consumers, but like in real life, right? So, obviously consumer behavior has shifted, and I know, this is habit, right? But some of it is a little bit of a forced shift, right? Where we'd prefer to be doing X, but we need to do Y, and we understand that. But I do think a lot of it's going to shift, but I am very curious about what you think in real life relationships are going to look like for brands. Are there going to be events? Are people going to the gym? Are they shopping in store? Is there any place for a non-digital relationship next year? Or do you think 2021 is still going to be, hey, you still have to do most of your talking to consumers digitally. This is just where we are. In real life is not an option yet?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's one we've all been asking ourselves, even when can I go back? When can I go in person? We're all kind of longing for that connection. And there is no replacement for that. It will come back. These things will come back. Shopping in-person events, they will come back. But I don't think as quickly as we will expect them to. And I don't think that they will ever probably get back to the levels in which we've always seen. And it's a study done by McKinsey. They asked which of all these long list of things that we can't do right now will people be the first to return back to. The good thing is shopping is at the top of that list. However, large events, air travel, things like that, that's way down towards the bottom. So there is this natural shift towards safer shopping, and that leads to this rise in e-com. More than 70% of people surveyed by McKinsey said that they don't feel comfortable resuming to their normal out-of-home activities yet. Mm-hmm. They are waiting for more than just government advice. They are waiting for science and doctors and specialists to actually provide these expertise opinions about when it is safe. They're waiting for the vaccine. They're waiting for total security that it is okay. So again, that's why I expect it to take a little bit longer of a lead time for us to return back to what will be a new normal of these experiences.
Yeah, that's actually a great, a little bit of a follow-up to that. So obviously you have things like travel, like air travel, like, vacationing, business travel, whatever it is, or really any host of categories where there is the softening of demand, right? And it's not just travel. We see it, right? We see it across categories. There are some industries that did very, very well, right? Like at-home workout, barbells and all of that good stuff, like that was sold out for so long, and there was such a kind of a back order of people demanding these things. But there's also categories where there is that softening of demand, travel being one of them. So if you're a brand, what can you do? Like, what can you do today to address it? And then what can you do for more of that mid-long term to kind of address what's happening? Because that's obviously a big concern for a lot of categories, industries, or brands.
Yeah, that is a great question. And, the pandemic caused a lot of disruptions and a lot of changes to consumer loyalty and consumer purchasing behaviors. And some are temporary and some are permanent, right? So as you mentioned, there were huge spikes in some categories that are now starting to decelerate. Home office equipment, for example. And also, in addition to that, COVID-19 really caused supply chain disruptors. Mm-hmm. So there's also consumers being forced to try new brands, to try new ways or new solutions of the old way of doing things. In a survey done through Facebook, 1 in 3 adults indicated that they've tried a new brand or product just during COVID. So there is this opportunity, and I think to your point, what can we do for the future? Well, it's really what can you do today that's going to plan for your future. There is a big opportunity right now where there's a lot of shifts in loyalty. There's a lot of shifts in consideration and in buying patterns. And right now is a great opportunity to capture that, to build equity for the future. So, and also to take advantage of some things now. So, for example, Q4 sales can be a big moment that a lot of people are waiting on. So 48% of tech purchasers and 44% of luxury purchasers said that they're going to wait for promotions in order to buy. There is this uncertainty, and from a financial point of view, that COVID has put everybody in. 71% of people surveyed said that their finances are likely going to be negatively impacted by the pandemic. So that is shifting to this super saver, big moment and sale events. But also, what that means is that there can be an opportunity to capture some of that higher funnel content, to capture some of those higher funnel audiences, to then kind of nurture them and lead them down the funnel later on, and kind of build this different way of running your marketing. And that's really kind of an opportunity now to readjust your KPIs, kind of experiment and play with some new avenues of what might work, and how to capture new audiences, and how to kind of cater to a new appeal. And we're seeing a lot of clients find great success in that. They're finding new pockets that they weren't going after before. So it's really about, telling your story and really looking for places to authentically provide value and connect with your customers.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about like those mega sales, I think you're totally, we're in the midst of Prime Day right now. People are shopping earlier. Like literally, I opened up a catalog just yesterday, and it was like, there was a Christmas tree. I was like, oh my goodness, this is nuts. So yeah, I think you're totally right. I think people are just, they're waiting for those bigger times to really buy and using their money wisely. So yeah, I think that's a really great advice. Like, continue the conversation, build your relationship, and then when they're ready, they'll be ready, and you will be top of mind. So, but it's totally a very different way for a lot of brands that have been very transactional or very direct response all the time, evergreen. That is a big kind of mindset shift for them. So, I really like that. Okay. And then there's been so much, right? Like, I was trying to think back of all the things that we talked about, and all the shifts that have happened in 2020. And, I think from a content consumption standpoint, more people are reading, written content. Video content is on the rise. It's insane. Mobile adoption, mobile commerce, streaming, like all of these things have completely upended, even as marketers, how we're creating media plans, assets that we're creating, how we're talking to people. And I've just been so impressed with how brands have been able to create things so quickly and move so fast. But, my question for you is, whether I'm thinking of Q4 or even more importantly, like 2021, what are the things that brands should really double down on? Because there's so many things that have happened that it's really hard to go all in on one of them. But like, what's your perspective of, I'm talking to a brand and I'm telling them they need to make sure to do this? What is that?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think with all of this change and all these uncertain times, we feel like there's 27 things that we should be doing, and how do we do them all at once? And there really are some kind of key priorities and key things that will make the most difference and change, even in terms of performance. The one, and I would beg to say the biggest, is the immense growth of video. I cannot stress this enough. Video consumption is through the roof, and it is really the way that consumers are wanting to engage and interact with a brand. It's not going away, and it is in your best interest to figure out a process for quickly creating quality video content, and truly think of it as an ongoing thing. It's not a one and done, it's ongoing. And most importantly, build for the platform where it's going to be on. Because you have to think of the mindset of where consumers are. And in order to really be effective, you need to think of where they are in their headspace when you're going to be interacting with them. On our platforms, video can affect up to 60% of the overall value in our auction that we use to determine when to serve an ad and which ad to serve. The number of advertisers using video in direct response campaigns has increased almost 4% this year. Also, we've projected that at least 78% of mobile traffic data will be video by 2021. Mm-hmm. And also, I think, again, kind of returning back to this Gen Z mindset, they really are the future. In 2020, 41% of the world is below 25. They're too big to ignore, and they are growing, and they're actually really also leading the pack. A lot of their patterns and behaviors are what baby boomers and other generations are adapting to. And Gen Z is really at the forefront in terms of watching more video. They're almost 1.5 times more likely watching video than anything else. So I would say video is a huge, huge component. And I will also stress on creating a mobile experience that you cannot ignore. I think we all can personally relate that we have spent so much more time on our phones, and have really, I think this is another trend that has really been cemented this year, is the comfortability in making significant transactions on our mobile phones. There used to be the shift of I'm doing some research on mobile and then I convert on desktop. No, it's the whole funnel can be really taken through to the end on a mobile experience. And I don't know about you, but I really feel the pain, and I almost want to write emails to companies and websites when I have a poor mobile experience on their site or with their brand, because it really does hinder me wanting to move forward with them. If it's too difficult, if there's too many barriers, I'm pulling back and I'm going to find something else. So, the time span in which people are making decisions and being willing to go forward and move forward with something is much shorter. And so we really need to be able to make sure that we're providing these seamless experiences, and again, meeting consumers where they are, which is on mobile.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. That I was on a webinar earlier this morning. They said something about good user experience then elevates what people expect, right? So you have like an Amazon, one day, one click checkout, and now that has become kind of that expectation. So I am 100% aligned with that. And it is really funny. Even my husband will be trying to check out somewhere and he'll be like, this is terrible. They should just hire you. And I was like, that's also not how it works, by the way, and people will just bounce. And, I love what you're saying about video, because even going back to kind of our previous point about, building a relationship, like that's how you're going to do it. You're not going to do it with the 300 by 250, you're going to do it through a constant communication, authentic voices. So I'm completely aligned with video. And a lot of our brands, even our brands that are very, very direct response, strict CPA goals, are seeing the best return on video, their lowest CPAs, highest ROASs. It's been insane just this year alone, the shift from 2019 to 2020. So, I don't think that this is I must be a massive brand to do something like that. Brands are finding a way. And I think it's, I think it is imperative that they continue to do so. Well, wonderful. Well, that was pretty much all that I wanted to touch on with you today. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughtfulness about just everything. We really enjoy all of the insights that Facebook continues to deliver. So thank you, Courtney, and thank you everybody who joined us today. And then stay tuned. We will have another great session coming up in just a minute.